This is the last message from the Alien War Council before their entire fleet stopped speaking forever. The Dragon Empire was supposed to fall in 3 days. The aliens had already named the galaxy as theirs. But then something answered from the void. No one expected it. Not the dragons. Not the aliens. Not even the universe itself. Human ships just entered the war zone. The broken alien command ship drifted through burning space like a dead metal body. Its hull was cracked. Its systems were failing one by one. Emergency lights flickered like dying stars inside the control room. Smoke floated slowly in zero gravity. The alien commander stood in the center of the chaos. His armor was scratched. His hands were shaking. Not from injury, but from what he had seen outside. He looked at the shattered display screens. Each one showed the same truth. Entire fleets were gone. Not scattered. Not defeated in battle, but erased from existence. One moment they were there. The next moment only empty space remained. The alien fleet had entered Dragon Empire territory with confidence. They believed the reports. They believed the intelligence. They believed the dragons were strong but limited. Something that could be overwhelmed with numbers. Now there were no numbers left to count. Outside the viewport, the sky was not a sky anymore. It was a graveyard of ships. Burning hulls drifted without direction. Some still fired weak signals. Some simply floated silent like broken bones of a dead army. The commander stared at it all and finally understood something he never expected. This was not a war. This was a collapse. A senior officer spoke behind him, voice low and broken. He said the first fleet vanished within minutes of contact. No explosion, no warning, just disappearance. Then the second fleet tried to respond. They never sent a second message. The commander clenched his fist. He ordered scans again and again. He demanded answers from systems that were already dying. But the reports only repeated the same impossible truth. No enemy fleet detected in conventional space. No energy pattern matching known weapons. No predictable attack signatures. Only distortion. Only silence. Then the commander finally saw it himself. A recording recovered from the last destroyed scout ship. The footage was unstable, fragmented, but clear enough to freeze his thoughts. Dragon units were not behaving like military forces. They moved like forces of nature. One moment they were not there. The next moment they appeared inside alien formations. Not jumping through space, but rewriting it. Ships bent around them, as if reality itself refused to hold shape. Then fire. Not normal fire. Not plasma bursts or beam weapons. It looked like space itself was burning. Entire fleets dissolved into glowing dust. Not blown apart. Not destroyed by impact. Just erased. The commander stepped back from the screen. For the first time in his entire life, he did not understand war. He had studied hundreds of conflicts. He had planned invasions across systems. He had calculated victory probabilities for decades. Nothing prepared him for this. The dragons were not defending their empire. They were correcting something, as if the invasion itself was an error in reality. Another officer entered the room. His voice was almost a whisper. He said the forward fleets are requesting retreat routes. But there were no routes left. Every direction led into dragon territory. Every signal from their allies was fading. The commander looked at the burning sky again and slowly began to realize the truth. The Dragon Empire had not been tested yet. It had been asleep, and the aliens had just woken something that should never have been disturbed. The commander turned off the tactical display, not because he had a plan, but because the numbers no longer meant anything. The war had started with confidence, with strategy, with belief in superiority. Now it ended in silence. No victory reports. No rescue signals. No organized retreat. Only fragments of fleets drifting in empty space. He spoke quietly, not to his officers, but to the emptiness outside. He said they thought the dragons were just another empire, just another obstacle in their rise. But now it was clear. There was no balance in this war. There was no strategy that could fix it. The moment they entered Dragon space, the outcome was already decided. The commander finally understood the shape of their mistake. It was not a failed invasion. It was a misunderstanding of what the dragons actually were. And as the last functioning systems on the ship began to shut down, even hope felt like something distant and unreal. The transmission continued to flicker, preparing its final report to the Alien Council. But no one inside the ship spoke anymore, because by then, everyone already knew. The war was not being lost. It had already been over from the very beginning. The Alien Council chamber was quiet, too quiet for something that decided the fate of a galaxy. A circular hall made of dark metal. Floating screens surrounded the room like silent judges. Every seat was filled with high-ranked alien leaders. No one spoke at first. They were watching something that had been played many times before. Recordings of the Dragon Empire. The images showed vast star regions under dragon influence, not ruled by force, not controlled by occupation, but shaped by presence. The dragons did not invade systems. They did not crush civilizations for resources. They simply existed in key sectors of the galaxy, and everything around them became stable. Trade routes stayed safe. Wars stopped before they began. Pirates avoided their space completely. Even chaotic regions turned calm over time. One council member leaned forward, his voice low. "They are not expanding." Another answered slowly. "They do not need to." That was the problem no one wanted to admit. The dragons were not like the others. They were not growing. They were not competing. They were not reacting. They were simply there. And their existence alone changed everything around them. The recordings shifted to another system. A border region where 3 alien civilizations once fought for control. After dragon presence appeared nearby, the war ended in days. No treaty was signed. No winner was declared. The fighting simply stopped. The council watched it in silence. One leader finally spoke. "They do not conquer, but they decide outcomes without trying." Another voice followed. "That is worse than conquest." The chamber grew heavier. The more they watched, the more uncomfortable it became. The dragons were not violent. They were not aggressive. They were not unstable. They were perfectly balanced. And that balance felt unnatural to those who lived on chaos and competition. A younger council officer spoke, trying to sound logical. "If they are not expanding, then there is no threat." But no one agreed, because threat was not always about attack. Sometimes threat was about influence. And the Dragon Empire influenced everything without moving. The screens shifted again, this time showing fleets that entered Dragon-controlled space in the past. Every fleet that tried to challenge them either retreated or disappeared from records. Not destroyed in open battle. Not defeated in known warfare. Just gone. That silence bothered the council more than anything. There were no trophies. No captured worlds. No evidence of struggle. Only empty logs. A senior council leader stood up slowly. He spoke while looking at the floating images. "They are too stable. Too quiet. Too perfect." He paused. No empire should be this calm. That statement changed the mood in the room. Because, in their minds, power was supposed to be loud. Expansion was supposed to be visible. Control was supposed to be taken. But the dragons broke that understanding completely, and that made them uncomfortable. Another leader tapped the table. What if they decide to expand one day? The question was not answered immediately, because no one knew. And uncertainty inside the council always turned into fear. Then fear slowly turned into something else. The recordings shifted again, this time showing dragon fleets resting near a star system. No weapons activated. No movement of aggression. Just silent guardianship. A council member whispered, "They could end us without effort." That sentence stayed in the air. No one denied it. No one argued. Because deep down, they all saw it too. The dragons were not preparing for war. They simply existed in a way that made war irrelevant. And that was unacceptable to minds built on dominance. One of the older council members finally spoke. His voice carried something colder than fear. "If they remain, The galaxy will never belong to anyone. Silence followed. That was the moment everything shifted. Not because of danger, but because of possibility. The idea formed slowly, like a poison that does not show symptoms at first. If the dragons were removed, if their influence vanished, then everything they controlled would open. Star sectors, trade routes, entire regions of space. Power would become available again, and the galaxy would no longer be balanced by their presence. It would be open for someone else to rule. The idea spread through the chamber, at first as discussion, then as strategy, then as desire. No one called it fear anymore. They called it opportunity. One leader leaned forward. If we erase them, he paused, the galaxy will finally belong to us. That sentence did not sound like war planning. It sounded like destiny being chosen. The council did not discuss consequences for long. They did not consider alternatives, because deep inside, they were no longer evaluating risk. They were imagining control, and that imagination was stronger than logic. One by one, votes were cast. Systems recorded the decision quietly, without emotion, without judgment. War against the Dragon Empire was approved, not because they were attacked, not because they were threatened, not because survival required it, but because they believed the galaxy was incomplete with dragons in it. As the final vote was logged, the chamber lights dimmed slightly, as if even the room understood something had changed. The council members stood up. No celebration, no pride, only a shared silence filled with expectation. They believed they had chosen their future, but none of them realized they had just stepped into something they could no longer control. The Dragon Empire did not react the way the Alien Council expected. There were no emergency broadcasts, no warning signals, no military declarations, just silence, a silence that stretched across entire star systems. Alien fleets crossed the border lines with full confidence. Hundreds of warships entering dragon-controlled space. Weapons armed, shields active, sensors scanning for resistance. They expected defense at the edge. They expected a border battle. They expected dragons to respond with force. But nothing happened. The first system they entered was empty. Not destroyed. Not damaged. Not abandoned in panic. Perfectly intact. Planets were still there. Space stations still powered. Satellites still orbiting. But there was no life response. No communication. No movement. No signals. One alien captain ordered scans across the system. Every report came back the same. No active military presence. The fleet moved deeper. The second system was the same, and the third, and the fourth, world after world, silent and untouched. It was not a battlefield. It felt like an empty memory. The alien soldiers began to feel something unfamiliar, confusion, then discomfort, because nothing made sense. An empire as powerful as the Dragon Empire should not leave territory this open. It should not be this quiet. One officer finally spoke. Maybe they retreated, but even he did not believe his own words, because retreat did not look like this. Retreat left signs of fear, broken structures, evacuated colonies, emergency signals, but here there was nothing, just stillness. The fleet commander ordered full tactical formation. They continued forward, and that was when the first strange report arrived. A scout ship disappeared, not exploded, not attacked, not even damaged, just gone. Its last transmission was a moment of static and confusion. Then silence. The fleet stopped for a moment. Sensors searched every direction. Nothing was found. No debris, no energy trail, no enemy signature. Just empty coordinates where the ship had existed seconds before. A nervous tension spread through the fleet, but still they moved forward, because retreat was not part of the plan. Then the signal arrived. It did not come from sensors. It did not come from ships. It came directly into every communication channel at once. All frequencies, all systems, all languages, a single message. Come, clear, unchanging. You entered without understanding. The fleet froze. No one responded immediately. The message repeated once, then disappeared. No source location detected. No transmission path recorded. Just words floating inside their systems. One officer whispered, "That is not possible." Another replied, "Nothing about this is possible." The fleet commander ordered immediate withdrawal. But before the order could fully spread, another ship vanished. Then another, and another. Not explosions, not collisions, not combat damage. Ships simply stopped existing. One moment, they were there. The next moment, they were not. Even the space around them remained unchanged. No shock waves, no energy bursts, no visible cause. It was as if reality itself forgot they existed. Panic started to spread, not loud at first, controlled voices trying to report status, trying to confirm locations, trying to regroup formation. But the disappearances continued. More ships gone, more silence spreading through the fleet. Communication channels became chaotic. Some officers shouted about enemy stealth technology. Others spoke about spatial distortion fields. Some believed it was a trap, but none of those theories matched what they were seeing. Because traps still had structure, this had none. The alien fleet began to break formation. Ships moved randomly. Some attempted to jump to faster-than-light escape routes. Others tried to reverse course immediately, but the space around them felt different, unstable in a way they could not measure. Then the second message appeared. Same sourceless arrival, same calm tone. You entered without understanding. And after that, more ships vanished. The panic turned into fear. Fear turned into collapse. Command structures failed as captains lost contact with their own fleets. Entire wings of warships disappeared without warning. The galaxy around them felt less like a battlefield, and more like something being erased layer by layer. One surviving commander finally spoke through a broken channel. His voice was no longer controlled. It was shaking. He said they were not fighting anything. They were being removed. That sentence spread through the remaining ships. And for the first time since the war began, the alien forces understood something terrible. They were not facing resistance. They were facing judgment. The Dragon Empire had not shown its military strength. It had not responded with fleets or weapons. It had simply allowed them to enter, and the reality itself began to reject them. System by system, fleet by fleet, the alien invasion was not being defeated. It was being undone, and deep inside the remaining ships, one thought grew stronger than all others. They had mistaken silence for weakness. But silence was never weakness. It was patience. And now that patience was ending in a way no one could stop. The alien fleet was already breaking apart when the new signal appeared. At first, it was almost ignored, just a faint reading at the edge of long-range sensors. Weak, unstable, almost lost inside the noise of collapsing systems. One technician called it out casually, probably debris echo. No one paid attention, because too many things were already vanishing. Too many ships were already gone. But then the signal grew stronger. Not louder in a normal way, but clearer, more structured, more consistent. It did not match alien technology. It did not match dragon patterns. It was something else entirely. The fleet commander frowned as the reading stabilized. Multiple entry points detected. Deep space origin, approaching fast. Then more signals appeared. Not one, not two, hundreds, then thousands, coming in formation. Perfect coordination. The alien analysts froze, because the pattern was not chaotic. It was organized, too organized for unknown origin. Then visual confirmation arrived. Ships began to emerge from hyperspace corridors. Human ships. At first they thought it was a scouting group, small reinforcement unit, maybe survivors from another sector. But the numbers kept increasing, wave after wave of vessels appearing through jump points. Not scattered, not random, a full structured armada. Warships, carrier vessels, support fleets, command structures, all moving as one. The scale was impossible to ignore. One alien officer whispered, "That is not a patrol force. That is a full Empire deployment." Confusion spread quickly through the remaining alien fleet, because humans were not listed as a major power in this sector. They were not supposed to be here, not at this scale, not this organized. The fleet commander ordered identification scans. The results made no sense. Human vessels carried advanced technology, but not comparable to dragons, not comparable to alien war fleets. And yet, their coordination was flawless, their movement precise, their arrival intentional. Then something even stranger happened. The human fleet did not acknowledge the alien presence. No communication, no warning, no challenge. They ignored them completely, as if the alien fleet was irrelevant. The human armada moved past them, straight toward Dragon Empire-controlled space. The alien commanders became confused. One officer finally spoke. "They are here for us." Another responded immediately. "No, they are not even looking at us." And it was true. Human ships did not target alien positions. They did not lock weapons. They did not form attack formations. They moved as if following something deeper, a pre-arranged destination. Then the communication channels opened, but not to aliens. Every human ship transmitted a signal, directed into Dragon Empire space. The alien fleet intercepted by accident, and what they heard was simple, calm, direct, almost respectful. "We received your call." Silence fell across every remaining alien channel, because no one understood what that meant. One analyst checked the frequency origins. It was not emergency code, not distress signal, not diplomatic channel. It was recognition, as if the humans were responding to something already known, something already agreed upon. The alien commander turned slowly toward the tactical display, his voice quiet. Did the dragons call them? No one answered, because no one had seen any dragon communication outside their own collapse reports. But the timing was impossible to ignore. Dragon systems had been silent since the invasion began, and now humans arrived exactly as everything started falling apart. The human fleet continued forward, passing through regions where alien ships still vanished. But nothing touched them. No distortion waves affected their movement. No system disruptions. No disappearances. It was as if the collapse respected them or avoided them. Even alien sensors struggled to maintain lock. Some ships tried to retreat from human approach paths. But human fleets did not chase. They did not react. They simply continued forward, like a river moving through broken land. Then the alien fleet witnessed something that broke all remaining logic. Dragon space responded. For the first time since the war began, Dragon systems activated. Not weapons, not defensive fields, but awareness. Entire sectors lit up on long-range scans. As if something was waking up, the human armada slowed, not in fear, but in arrival, as if they had reached their destination. Then the dragons appeared, not from hyperspace, not from hidden fleets, but from everywhere at once, as if they had always been there, just unseen, waiting. The alien commander could barely speak, because, for the first time, he saw something that was not part of their war. Humans and dragons did not point weapons at each other. They aligned, not in hostility, not in suspicion, but in understanding. And across all channels, the final human transmission repeated again. "We receive your call." Even the dragons paused, not in confusion, but in confirmation, as if the galaxy itself had just acknowledged a pact that already existed long before the war began. The battlefield changed without warning. What was once a collapsing alien invasion zone suddenly felt different. The silence broke first, not with noise, but with presence. Dragon fleets reappeared across multiple star sectors, not arriving through jump points, not entering from known routes. They simply existed there, like reality had finally allowed them to be seen again. The alien sensors struggled to process it, because these were not the same dragons from before. They were stronger, larger formations, deeper energy signatures, more stable control over space itself. Every dragon vessel felt like it belonged to the fabric of the universe rather than inside it. The alien commander stared at the tactical screen, his hands no longer shaking, because fear had already gone beyond that stage. Now there was only acceptance forming slowly. Then the human armada moved, not scattered, not cautious, but unified. They entered dragon-controlled space without hesitation. And instead of conflict, there was alignment. Human fleets took formation beside dragon fleets, side by side across star lanes, covering each other naturally. No hesitation in movement. No need for coordination signals. It felt like they had done this before, many times, across many battles. The alien coalition, still surviving in fragments, began to realize something unbearable. They had misread everything from the start. This was not a war against one empire. It was never one empire. It was two civilizations moving in different ways, but connected in understanding deeper than alliance, deeper than treaty, deeper than diplomacy. One alien officer whispered in disbelief. They were already together, and that was the truth no one wanted to accept. The dragons controlled space itself, not just territory, not just systems, but the flow of movement between stars, the structure of distance, the stability of regions. They did not fight for space. They shaped it. And now that they had fully awakened, every region they touched became calm under their control. Humanity moved differently. They did not control space. They controlled war inside it. Strategy, adaptation, timing, coordination across impossible distances. Where dragons shaped the battlefield, humans shaped how battles were fought. Together, they created something the galaxy had never seen before. Not destruction alone, not dominance alone, but complete control of both structure and execution. The alien coalition ships tried to regroup, but every attempt failed before it fully formed. Human fleets intercepted movement paths before they stabilized. Dragon influence collapsed escape corridors before they were used. It was not reaction. It was anticipation. One alien commander finally understood. They were not reacting to us. They already knew everything we would do. Across the battlefield, human command vessels began silent coordination. No visible messaging. No standard communication bursts. Yet every human ship moved with perfect awareness of dragon positioning, and every dragon formation adjusted without conflict. Like two parts of a single system, the alien coalition began to fall apart. Not physically, but mentally. Command chains broke. Orders contradicted each other. Fleets that tried to escape were redirected into controlled zones. Fleets that attempted aggression were neutralized before engagement even began. Not destroyed violently, just removed from effectiveness. Then the final alien transmission began, sent from the last surviving command vessel. Its systems were failing. Its fleet was gone. Its leaders were silent. Only the commander remained, and he recorded the final report. His voice no longer held authority, only realization. He said they entered this war believing in superiority. They believed numbers would decide everything. They believed dragons were powerful but limited, and humans were irrelevant background noise. But now, all assumptions had collapsed. He looked at the tactical feed showing unified dragon and human formations, and spoke the final truth. We tried to erase gods. A pause followed, systems failing around him. Then the second line. We created an alliance instead. The transmission ended. No celebration followed. No victory speech. No declaration from dragons or humans. Because for them, it was not a victory moment. It was alignment. Something that had been waiting for the right moment to exist openly. Across the battlefield, human ships and dragon fleets continued moving, not in destruction, but in stabilization. Regions of chaos settled. Systems stopped collapsing. Even damage zones from earlier battles began to stabilize under dragon influence. Human fleets secured remaining hostile movements, not with overwhelming force, but with precise control. The alien presence faded from active combat space, not erased in violence, but removed from relevance. And in the quiet that followed, the galaxy understood something it had never known before. There were powers that did not need to dominate everything alone, because together they no longer needed to prove strength. They simply were strength. And for the first time since the war began, the galaxy was no longer watching a conflict. It was witnessing a shift in order itself.